Welcome, everyone. It is Thursday. It's good to have you here with me here on the Banfield Show. I've got a lot to tell you about the mysterious case of Riley Strain, who disappeared in Nashville. We're at day 13. And I'll tell you what, things aren't slowing down in the search for Riley. They seem to be ramping up. I can't say that from the police perspective because they still won't come on the program to talk to us about it, but I can tell you that the Cajun Navy is bringing out all of their best and biggest gear. We're going to be live with them tonight, show you the bird's eye view, the work they're doing right now. As we speak, it is 10 o'clock Eastern, and they are on the Cumberland River right now. You're going to get a live report from the sky, from the air, from the land. Also, brand new video. So this is massive, right? Because this is what's been missing. Those last moments of Riley's life, it seems, or at least where he was when we last saw him. It was near two bridges. And then he just goes dark. There's just no more surveillance video, or so we thought. We have actually discovered yet another piece of surveillance video that takes his journey at least further than where we left off. The police have it. They have shown it to the family. They have not shown it to the public. They are not showing it to the public. That leaves a lot of questions as well. But luckily, I can describe it for you because the family has given us the information of exactly what they saw on that video. So that's coming up. Also, witnesses getting calls back. Finally, witnesses who have tried for over a week and a half to get the police tips in this case. Tips that ended up panning out. They've been called back. One of them is going to join me on the show to talk about her conversation with the police, even though it was 11 days after the fact. We'll hear all about that as well. And then there's this. Sometimes those mysteries become cold cases, and sometimes those mysteries are solved anyway. I'm talking about 1990 and the case of Shauna Garber. That case went really cold. We didn't even have a photo of Shauna. This was like a rendering of Shauna, built from MRIs of the body that was discovered. Ligatures around her neck, and boy, did it ever look like it was the BTK serial killer, bind, torture, kill. We even got hints from sheriffs. They were onto him, saying this is definitely his work. We're just this close to proving it. Tonight, I have the answer. Tonight, we know who killed Shauna Garber. And in just a few moments, you're going to know as well the two dogged detectives who solved it this many decades later, live on the program. Let's start here, however. This is so critical. People don't just vanish, especially people like Riley Strain, 6'7" and 160 pounds. No, those people stand out. But after 13 grueling days of the Riley Strain mystery, of clues and leads and theories and speculation, that is the one thing we know for certain. He has got to be out there somewhere. We have exclusive aerial footage of the part of Nashville where the visiting University of Missouri student was last seen on the night of March 8th. You are looking at the Gay Street. It's the Riverfront Parks area. It's parallel to First Avenue. This is where Riley walked, that last walk that we see him. These are the banks of the Cumberland River below, right? And the latest word from police, still no change. They still don't think that foul play is suspected here, at least no evidence of foul play, not yet. So the search goes on, focused on the deep and wide and murky river that cuts the city of Nashville in half, and the possibility that a very drunk Riley Strain may have walked too close to the river's edge after leaving Luke Bryant's bar. We know this much. People saw him there, feet from the river. The cameras recorded him there. His cell phone actually puts him right up next to that river, literally feet away from it. A concerned family saw him vomit over the guardrail and then reported it to us here at NewsNation when they hit a dead end trying to report it to the police. They got the cold case voicemail. A homeless advocate told me last night right here on this program that a man who goes by the name Ross was seen wearing Riley's vomit-stained shirt, and says that the homeless man told others, several others, at least 4, that he found it hanging on a railing. And then there's Riley's bank card discovered by 2 women in a worrisome place on the riverbank, just steps from the water's edge. Right now, as we speak, search crews with high-tech sonar and special lighting equipment are on what they call the most detailed, comprehensive search so far of the Cumberland River in Nashville. And NewsNation correspondent Evan Lambert is live right in the middle of it all. So, Evan, they're searching at night again. I found that to be so intriguing last night when we spoke. They say that it's even better to search at night, which is confounding. But are they narrowing down any of the searching now?
Hey, Ashleigh. So we don't have a sense of that. We know that they're continuing to do this grid search on the Cumberland River, really between this area where we are, near those two bridges where Riley Strain was last seen, and then Ashland City, which is some 40 miles down the river. That is the area that was being searched yesterday by the dam, and they've been going up and down that area. You have several of the authorities here, the Nashville Metro Police. They have help from Tennessee wildlife authorities as well that have been out on the water in these boats, and they've been covering that entire area today. They were just behind us a few moments ago, and we do have some drone video of that I hope that you can show. And we saw, really, as you described, the biggest search yet as far as the efforts of the United Cajun Navy. Again, these are all volunteers coming to this area with their boats. We saw about 5 or 6 of them. They were fairly close together, and they were focused on the river banks. That is where they say, because of the current, if anything were to be visible, it would be pushed out to the river bank. So that's where we saw them grouped together. You mentioned the technology. We know that they're using sonar. They have some canines on these boats as well. And the lights, that is the thing that really makes it a game changer, is how they've been describing it to us. Compared to the murky, dark water during the day that is hard to see into because of the reflection of the sun on the top of it, they say that these lights, and we saw them, they are extremely bright. You can probably see them from that drone video.
Yeah,
that really gives them some visibility to cut into the water and try to help them see what has risen to the top. But, as far as we know, nothing has been discovered at this hour.
And of course, where you are, we saw in a video tour, there's media sort of, all the way along the banks of the Cumberland. They're doing live shots for local news and national news, et cetera. There's a lot of media. Is it still a lot of media? Are more people flocking there? I know a lot of TikTokers, social media folks have joined. But what's the presence of those who have joined to help? And what's the presence of those who have joined to cover the story?
Yeah, so there are also people that have been searching the embankment still, organized by the United Cajun Navy and others. Some of those TikTokers, the people from social media that have been documenting what they've been seeing, some of them helping, some of them really just recording it and trying to give the latest updates. Earlier, just as an example, there was an incident where somebody fell at the embankment. It's unclear if they actually went fully into the water, but there was a brief rescue. We don't yet know if that was one of the volunteers searching or if it was someone who's unhoused who is living down in that area. But that just gives you an idea of how steep this is, how dangerous the terrain is. So we know that physical search is going on as well. I haven't seen anyone searching the area in the last hour or so. Walking on the embankment, we poked our heads over the bridge to see if we could see that. We haven't noticed that, but clearly someone did fall a little bit earlier. We understand from authorities that they're going to be okay.
Also, just quickly, 30 seconds here, Evan, but the Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission is investigating this. They're going back to those bars, and they're trying to find out everywhere that Riley may have been served. What do we know about that?
Yeah, Ashleigh, so I reached out to them today for an update because it's been about a week since they said that they would be investigating, and I wanted to know if they had found anything, if they were close to taking any kind of enforcement action, if they did discover that Riley was overserved in any of these bars. They say right now that is an ongoing investigation. They do say that they've identified all the places that he went. They didn't tell us every single one of them. We know he was at Luke Bryan's establishment, where they tell us they only served him one alcoholic beverage. Yeah. And they also say that these establishments are cooperating with them, but they'll reveal that and any kind of action that they take when a final report is available after their investigation's over.
Okay,
Ashleigh.
Evan, thank you. Stay on it for us. Break in at any point during the program as well, because I know you're standing by live at the river's edge there, and the searching is ongoing tonight. I want to bring in now David Flagg. He is with the United Cajun Navy. David, it's good of you to be back on the program. Thank you for this.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, listen, Evan just alluded to something that seems to have just happened, that you're out searching for Riley Strain, and you've actually rescued someone else. Can you shed some light on what's happened?
Absolutely. So we had our boats in the water, and we're really just getting ready to start tonight's mission. And as the boats were more or less just kind of idling down the river, they heard someone on the riverbank calling for help. So they pulled over to the bank, and as it turns out, it was a 61-year-old man. He was a homeless man who had fallen from the top of the riverbank, which would have been First Street, and it's about at least a 30-foot drop. It's very brushy and but almost directly vertical. So he had kind of bounced down, through the trees and the brush and stuff, and actually landed on the rocks right at the river's edge. Was unable to move. Had some injuries to his arms and his wrists. But if we had not heard that, if we had not been here, he very likely would have passed.
That is quite remarkable, and I think really sort of underscores what can happen on those walkways and in that sort of thick brush up from the water's edge. If Riley had been, stumbling, inebriated, trying to find his way, and just had some, a missed footing, it makes perfect sense that the 61-year-old man who fell and tumbled to 30 feet, maybe the same thing. Would you have been able to see by now, in the area that Riley was last seen, with the timestamps that we know, would you have been able to find in all of that area if he was on that riverbank at this point?
Absolutely. Well, I'm not going to say absolutely. Very, very high probability. That whole area, those riverbanks and the river along that area has been searched thoroughly over and over and over again. Nashville PD has searched it thoroughly. Their urban search and rescue department, I've actually met them out there and seen them going up and down that riverbank. We've had Nashville PD's boats on the water, Nashville Office of Emergency Management, Tennessee Office of Emergency Management, Tennessee Fish and Wildlife. I mean, there was a number of private individuals have been in boats up and down this river. What Evan was alluding to a little while ago, we actually had some local residents who are fishermen and have boats, and they reached out and said, hey, look, we want to help in this. And they brought 4 of their own boats out on the river tonight. They were upriver here with us in the Nashville area, and then they have returned to the downriver area where we were and where Evan was earlier there at Cleese's Ferry. And they're going to spend a good part of the night tonight just searching along the riverbank and searching in, some of these coves or back eddies to see what they can find.
And we're seeing the live pictures of that, David. We're watching as those boats that you're talking about, you're Cajun Navy, you're the director. I want to remind people this is a volunteer group. These people just put down whatever they're doing, whenever they're doing it, and they hit the road, and they come with their boats, whatever kind they have, whatever craft they have, and they join in the effort to volunteer to search for people who need them. I do want to ask you this, if I can, David, and that is that it's been 13 days since Riley was last seen on video or his phone last pinged. If he had fallen into that river, what are the chances that we are going to find him?
Well, we will find him, and our position is always that we are on a rescue mission until we find definitively that it has turned into a recovery mission. There's been cases of people disappearing and being found 3 weeks, a month later. So we don't cave to any kind of loss of hope or anything of that nature. We just always maintain hope. We're maintaining hope for and with Riley's family. And we're bathing this whole situation. Actually, this whole area is, and our whole online community is just absolutely bathing this situation in prayer. And, prayer changes. That's what it's going to take to resolve this issue, is a lot of prayer and just a lot of diligent searching. So we're trying to fulfill both of those responsibilities.
Well, I just want to remind our viewers we're live on the water out there with the Cajun Navy. And David Flagg, to you and all of your colleagues who have done this, who have volunteered with this brigade to come and help Riley's family find him, our heartfelt thanks and our prayers as well that you're able to find something and resolve this mystery. Thank you, sir. Do appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Also, I want to let our viewers know, here is how you can get in touch with us here at NewsNation. If you have information or tips to share, and if you can't get cooperation with other agencies, please email us here, BanfieldTips@newsnationnow.com. Again, BanfieldTips@newsnationnow.com. And still to come, the mysterious video of Riley Strain's final sighting. Riley's parents have seen it, but the police will not release it. We've learned exactly where it was shot, what Riley was doing at that time, and maybe why he thought it was a good idea to walk towards the bridges instead of towards his hotel. We're going to fill you in on it next. Of downtown Nashville and the places where Riley Strain was last seen before vanishing, but there is video that shows Riley Strain walking in other places, video that has not been released to the public. Riley's family told us about it last night on this show. Police have shown it to them, but they are not releasing it to us. And we asked why they're not sharing it publicly, and they said that it's very poor quality, doesn't prove anything other than Riley was around the bridges where his phone pinged for the last time. I beg to differ because we got a much better description from a friend of Riley's family, Chris Dingham, who told us that it was captured by a surveillance camera high above the Woodland Street Bridge. And the timestamp on it is 9:57 p.m., which makes it the last of several videos to document Riley Strain's movements. The last, like that's it. It shows Riley walking under the Woodland Bridge and then stopping at that lamppost right there. And he stops for about 6 to 7 seconds, and this is where it gets important. He's seen doing something on his phone. And then he continues northward towards the second bridge close by. That's the James Robertson Parkway Bridge. And the last time he's seen on camera is when he passes this yellow sign just before he reaches that James Robertson Bridge. And he's not been seen or heard from since. The part about him being on his phone is sort of fascinating because of a brand new theory that is circulating. People online have noticed that it has to do with the name of his hotel. When he spoke with his friends on the phone after leaving the bar on Broadway, he told them that he was headed back to his hotel, the Tempo by Hilton. Remember that, the Tempo. The Tempo is a 12-minute walk from Luke Bryant's bar, where Riley was standing after being kicked out. But it is a 12-minute walk west. You'd have to turn left out of the bar, down Broadway. See Luke's on the bottom there? Turn left down Broadway, 12 minutes, you're home. But for some reason, he took the red path up 3rd Ave. He walked straight north. Then he turned right on Church. And then he turned left along the river. Don't forget, he was visiting from Missouri, so he didn't know his way around. So there is a pretty good chance that he tried to follow a map on his phone to get back to his hotel. You know, directions. We all do that on our phone. There are 2 businesses in downtown Nashville, at least 2, that share the name Tempo. The Tempo Hotel, where Riley was going, and Your Tempo, a software company. And that company, Your Tempo, you guessed it, it is right past the 2 bridges where Riley was last seen. At least the video that we're told exists and that the family was shown by the police. When he stopped at that lamppost to look at his phone, was he looking at directions or a map that would take him to the Tempo business instead of the Tempo Hotel? Which would mean he wasn't wandering aimlessly, he was going to the wrong Tempo. And remember the timestamp that I mentioned, 9:57 p.m. Riley's phone last pinged 1 minute later at 9:58. That would have been right after Riley walked under the James Robertson Parkway Bridge. Did he turn the phone off right then and there? Did he fall into the river right then and there? Or did he run into trouble right then and there? There are a couple of other theories that are getting some attention tonight. There's a car that is spotted near Riley in each of the surveillance videos. And some observers think that that same car is following Riley. We have taken a look at the videos, and we've looked at them, and we've looked at them, and we've looked. It's kind of impossible to tell whether it's the same car in all of the videos. And even if it is, that sort of a kidnapping is really hard to reconcile with every other data point that we've been able to put together. Nashville police are not commenting. We've invited them again on this program. They have declined again. There are also questions about the 911 call that was made from Riley's friends following the afternoon on March 9th. Take a look.
Okay. What is his name?
His name is Riley Strain. Riley, R-I-L-E-Y, Strain, S-T-R-A-I-N.
Okay. Is he white, black, Hispanic, Asian?
He's white. 22-year-old, 6'5", blonde.
Okay. And what was he last seen wearing?
Outside of Luke Bryan's bar last night at like 10, and then the last time his location on his phone was by the sheriff's office at like 11 p.m.
Okay, and what color clothing was he last seen wearing?
He's wearing jeans, boots, and a half black shirt, half brown, light brown.
Okay, and you said it last showed outside the sheriff's department?
Like around that area by the river, by the sheriff's department over there.
Okay. Does he have any life-sustaining medications or disabilities?
No.
And what is, you said he has a phone, so it's a cell phone, right?
Yeah, it's an iPhone 15 Pro Max.
Some people think that there's a voice in the background mentioning, quote, the river. Now, we've isolated the sound so that you can decide for yourself. Take a listen.
And what is, you said he has a phone, so it's a cell phone, right?
Doesn't really sound like that to me. It doesn't sound like anyone says river. And the police aren't commenting on that either. Today, though, the police did confirm something that was first reported right here. A family told us that they saw Riley vomit over the railing when he first reached the river he reached the Cumberland River right there at Gay Street. He had turned left towards the bridges, and now the police are confirming that did happen, that Riley did vomit in that area. And that too is important because of something else we learned from multiple people, that a homeless man was seen wearing a shirt identical to Riley's 2 days after he disappeared, a clean shirt. That man reportedly told other people that he'd found the shirt hanging on a railing with vomit on it, that he'd cleaned it off and worn it. But here's what doesn't add up. We know now that Riley got at least as far as the second bridge, more than 300 yards away. And nobody who's seen that last bit of video said that at any point at the end of that red line up north there, that he was shirtless. And that body cam, the police body cam, just minutes before he reached the end of that red line, he was also wearing a shirt in that too. There is a sheriff's office right past the James Robertson Bridge. So what his friend was saying on the 911 call made sense, that he knew that that's where he was. It had some kind of location on him at that point. I want to bring in the person who first saw someone other than Riley wearing what looked like Riley's shirt. Sabrina Martin is a volunteer with Souls United, an organization that helps the homeless in Nashville, and she joins me live now on the phone. Sabrina, thank you so much for coming back on the program. You know, we're at day 13, and 11 days ago you spotted the homeless person, we think maybe his name is Ross, wearing the shirt that looks like Riley's. We've had Chris Salisbury say that he now knows someone named Ross, a homeless man, was telling others that he got that shirt. He saw it hanging on a railing. It had vomit on it, and he picked it up, cleaned off the vomit, and started wearing it. You tried mightily to get a hold of the police. You called them. You were thrown into voicemail for the cold case unit. You then called Crime Stoppers. And as of, I think, yesterday when we talked to you, they hadn't called you back. Have they called you back yet?
They have. They called me yesterday afternoon.
Well, that is a real relief. Can you describe your conversation with them?
Yes, it was Detective Rowland who gave me a call. He first apologized for it taking him so long to get back to me. And then he just asked me to recount what I seen. And then a description of the gentleman, what the gentleman was wearing in his back. I also gave him the location, and then I gave him the contact information of 2 other volunteers that were with me that day. I confirmed with them last night that Metro Police did follow up with both of them as well.
And they were able to tell the story that they saw that homeless man wearing what looked like Riley's shirt as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So what about this man named Ross? When you and I first spoke, you told me that you had seen him before. It wasn't the first time that you had had an interaction with him, because you are often once a month, serving the homeless. Have you seen him since? Has anyone else seen him since?
To my knowledge, no one has seen him since. I haven't seen him since, but I have not been back to the homeless camp since that Sunday.
What's interesting about Chris Salisbury, who also made a report to us that he tried to get a hold of the police and was thrown into the cold case voicemail, is that he also works with the homeless, and he went down there to speak with several people, said he had reports from at least 3 or 4, maybe even 5 other people who said the same thing. A homeless man who goes by the name of Ross told them that he got that shirt, found it hanging on a railing, but he said that it was hanging on a railing sort of down near Broadway, which would be way, way south of where our red line, puts Riley. What's interesting is when Chris gathered that information about the shirt having vomit on it, you can tell me why that's significant, though, right? The timing of when Chris Salisbury got the reports from the homeless people up near those bridges that Ross had said he got the shirt with vomit on it. Why was it significant, that timing?
To me, it was significant because the public, it didn't come out publicly that there was puke, on the shirt until I believe yesterday or the day before. Chris was actually down at the homeless camp getting the reports last week. So Thursday, Friday of last week.
It gives it even more credibility. It wasn't public. We hadn't had the report yet from the family that they had witnessed Riley vomiting over the barrier. But those homeless people had been talking about the shirt with vomit on it before that. Thank you for that, Sabrina. I appreciate it. Can I ask you one more quick question, and that is this area at 10 o'clock at night. Is this an area you would go alone at 10 o'clock at night where Riley was last pinging and seen on the video?
I personally wouldn't go alone downtown at all. I would definitely be in pairs or in a group, but I would not go in that area alone at night.
Not particularly safe. Not to say that everybody in that area is dangerous, but there are definitely some trouble spots. Sabrina Martin, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for us on this program and for this family in trying so doggedly to get a hold of the police and tell them what you know. And it's panned out. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashleigh.
Still to come, 34-year-old murder. A 34-year-old murder. That is a cold case, folks. One we thought actually might be the work of the BTK serial killer, Dennis Rader. An Oklahoma sheriff even said he had proof that BTK killed Shauna Beth Garber. He even told us on this program, live. But he's not the one who ended up cracking the case. The detectives who did crack the case are live with me next, and they are solving the mystery. Serial killer is locked up anywhere. Police everywhere dust off their cold case files and they look for connections. And fairly often they find them. And cold cases become closed cases. This is not one of those times. Shauna Beth Garber was found dead in McDonald County, Missouri, way back in 1990. She was 22 years old. She had been raped and choked and hogtied. But it wasn't until 2021 that police even knew her name. Last summer, Shauna's name and the murder were back in the headlines, though, when a sheriff in Oklahoma decided to dig up some property in Kansas that once belonged to Dennis Rader, the notorious serial killer known as BTK. That stands for bind, torture, kill. And Shauna Garber certainly appeared to fit his MO. The sheriff said he found, quote, items of interest, including tangled pantyhose and jewelry that was buried on Dennis Rader's property. And he came on this program to show us. This is the set of pantyhose that had the knots in them?
Yes, you can still see the knots in them and, where they would have been bound possibly around somebody's wrist.
Tonight, we know that Shauna Garber was not a victim of BTK. She was murdered by a man named Tulfy Reeves. We also know that she was killed by a lethal injection, and this is strange, meth, in 1990. How do we know all this? Because of more than 15 years of hard slugging by two Missouri detectives who never gave up and never gave in to the pressure to chalk Shauna's murder up to the monster who was already in prison. So what is next for Tulfy Reeves? Nothing. Tulfy Reeves was killed in a car accident 3 years ago. I'm joined now by Detectives Lori Howard and Rhonda Wise of McDonald County, Missouri. They solved this case. Ladies, so good of you to be here. Thank you so much. Lori, let me begin with you. Are you 100% certain that it's actually Tulfy Reeves? And if so, how can you be so sure?
Thank you, Ashleigh, for having us. And we want to say that our hearts go out to Riley's family.
Thank you.
We are 100% certain that it is Tulfy Reeves. Tulfy is not a new suspect. He actually was a person of interest even as far back as 2010. What took so long to put the case together is that even though that we had statements and we had sources and we had witnesses, so to speak, nobody wanted to come forward back then because Tulfy was alive. And that complicated the process. But we never got tunnel vision. If you get tunnel vision as a cold case detective, you might as well hang it up. Because what so often happens is if you get tunnel vision and you decide it's just one person, you try to kind of take that narrative and make the ending happen the way that you see it. But honestly, we went and interviewed Dennis Rader because it was the right thing to do, because we had to keep an open mind. We had to jump through those hoops and make it absolutely certain. So we did that, and we came away from that after having looked at all of that evidence, and we came back and started all over again with the people in the file.
You got a funny feeling, right, from Dennis Rader? Like you showed him some pictures of his own crimes and then pictures of this crime, and what was his reaction? Like, how different was it?
It was night and day. Dennis Rader, I like to say he taught us some things, because he did. I'll just be honest with you. We sat down across from him and we showed him his own work, and he was animated, he was excited, he was reliving that moment, and it was very evident, very obvious. And then we put Shauna's work, or Tulfy's work, essentially, in front of Dennis Rader, and he was disgusted. We knew immediately it was not his work. He actually said it was overkill, it was sloppy. And, we had decided pretty much at that moment that that was not his work, but we didn't want to dismiss that. We actually went back and looked at all of the writings and codes and everything that Dennis Rader had at the time, that Sheriff Burton had at the time. And we still came away knowing we needed to come back home and start over.
So, Rhonda, first of all, I'm fascinated that witnesses were, emboldened to finally come forward and tell. But I'm also fascinated by meth. I'm sorry, in 1990, I didn't even know what meth was. How did you figure out that it was a death by meth injection as opposed to strangulation? Because she was found with coaxial cable around her neck.
Early on, before we knew who Shauna was, when she was Grace, there was the supposition that she was strangled. Yes. The manner of death was undetermined whenever the medical examiner looked at the bones, or at the remains. And she did have the cord wrapped around her neck, but there was no proof of blunt force trauma. There was no soft tissue damage. There was no nicks in the bones that would indicate a stabbing or anything like that. So the supposition was at that point that yes, she was strangled. However, we know that she was killed with an overdose based on the statements from developed sources and witnesses who were finally able to tell us what had happened after Talfie's death, and because they weren't afraid anymore.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But then again, because I've met you on, this program a couple times, I actually don't find it so unbelievable. You're both amazing, and you're dogged in your work. And I hope you'll come on the air. We'll talk about other cases. Rhonda Wise, Lori Howard, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you for solving this.
Thank you.
Wow, that's amazing. Just remarkable. Still to come, sentencing day for the church-going couple who left their autistic adult daughter to rot in her own waste until her dead body literally fused to that sofa. Up next, the prosecutor who brought those parents to justice, or as close as he could get. And what may be the final outrage in this whole disgusting saga. Whom the parents are blaming. It's next.
Stubborn job. Squeezy's coconut oil infused formula is tough on grime but gentle on hands. Squeezy's only available online at soapfilledsponge.com or at one of these fine e-tailers. Squeezy, the soap-filled sponge. When it comes to cleaning, Squeezy makes it easy.
Tonight, the Louisiana couple who allowed their adult disabled daughter to suffer what may be the cruelest, most revolting death I may have ever come across. Those people are headed to prison. Yay. We brought you the story before in nauseating detail, and I don't use that word lightly. I don't air pictures lightly either, but the authorities themselves wanted us to, so that nobody could deny the horror that the victim endured. That's Lacey Fletcher. And there she is as an adult. She died 2 years ago in January at the age of 36 in her parents' home near Baton Rouge. And though she weighed a mere 96 pounds, the first responders struggled to get her out. That's because her dead, emaciated body was melted into that sofa that she hadn't left in years. She had open wounds to the bone, from her feet all the way up to her buttocks. Feces was smeared all over her face, matted in her hair. She was submerged in feces. Her body was covered in maggots and gnats, and she'd apparently been so hungry she was eating the foam from the cushions. Sheila and Clay Fletcher, her parents, were originally charged with second-degree murder, but last month they pleaded no contest to manslaughter. Their lawyer insisted, and this too is unfathomable, that they loved Lacey to death. Yesterday, the Fletchers were each sentenced to 40 years in prison, but, big but here, 20 years of that is suspended. And if you're thinking to yourself, that's all? I'm right there with you. I'm joined now by Sam D'Aquila. He's the DA who was determined to get justice for Lacey Fletcher as much as he could have. So, Mr. District Attorney, thank you for being on. Thank you for the work that you've done in this case. By my math, at 85% of the sentence, good behavior, they might get out in 16 or 17 years. They're 66 years old, which would make them 82, 83. I don't see it. I don't see the justice there. How do you feel having prosecuted them?
The judge, she stipulated the reasons why she sentenced him to that amount of time. And we were really concerned about that. That's why we notified the media. We wanted the public to know about this case. And, they're going to be old when they get out. Hopefully they're going to spend the rest of their life in jail.
So what did they say for themselves at sentencing? How did they answer to this horror?
Actually, I put them on the witness stand and I asked them a question. And the main question I asked them is, why did this happen? And they gave an explanation, explaining. But basically what it came down to was Lacey Fletcher, a mentally disturbed teenager and adult, controlled their life. They were scared of her. Their entire life revolved around her, and they did exactly what she wanted them to do, which is just totally mind-boggling to me.
It's remarkable that she was in that condition and they were afraid of her. It seemed to me she would barely be able to move in the condition she was in. Did they believe that they should serve any time for what happened to their daughter, the pain and suffering that Lacey went through?
Actually, while the mother was on the stand, Sheila Fletcher, I asked her whether she needed to serve any time, and she said no. I don't think I need to serve any time. We were victims of our daughter, and it's just
Lacey's fault. Oh, God. I understand they had 20 people there supporting them. 20 supporters of the Fletchers.
Correct. And we didn't have any supporters of Lacey. As a matter of fact, when this case started, we had to solicit the internet, Facebook, and some other people to come and support Lacey. We didn't have anybody that would stand up for her. And we were able to rally quite a few people for Lacey at that hearing.
Well, thank you for doing that, and thank you for valiantly struggling to get justice for Lacey. Sam D'Aquila, thank you for being on tonight as well. Appreciate it.
Right, thank you.
And people, if you or someone you know or anyone is being neglected or abused, please call 911. Don't wait. Trust your gut. It's important. It might save a life. Coming up next, for those thinking about becoming cat burglars, it's of course important to be limber, but even more important, not to telegraph your intentions. Maybe find your inner peace somewhere without surveillance cameras. Talk about Mission Impossible. What was this woman thinking just moments before her break-in? Wait till you see the video, the crime and the punishment for the yoga bandit next.
And even here, in your neighborhood and around the world, Rotary is ensuring children grow up safe from preventable diseases.
Retirement can be scary, but only if you're not prepared. That's why AARP created thisispretirement.org. Because unless you've already retired, you're in pretirement, and you still have time to plan. Learn about retirement savings options, potential tax breaks, and how you can build savings over time. Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan and feel the retirement fear disappear. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
We're with Liam after his 4th military move, when being new is starting to get old. We're with Tara during the holidays, when she misses home the most. We're with all service members and their families who need connection, comfort, and a home away from home. Are you with them? Learn more at USO.org today.
To have surveillance cameras, really the greatest invention ever. They prevent crimes, they catch criminals, and sometimes they're just good for a laugh, which is this caught on camera moment. A cat burglar preparing to knock off a bakery in Australia in the only way she knows how. We actually had quite a sense of humor about this bandit, posting the video on Instagram and then adding the Mission Impossible theme music as she stretches away. Ms. Yoga Lady broke into that bakery. She only seemed to steal some electronics and help herself to croissants, though. Probably worked up an appetite with all that yoga outside. The yoga police in Melbourne tracked her down and arrested her for burglary and theft. So namaste, yoga burglar. You can now help inmates find inner peace in jail. Thanks for joining everyone tonight. Cuomo's next.
Hatred for America continues from the extreme MAGA Trumpers.
These people, the far left, fascist far right.
What is this going to turn into a civil war?
It is officially a psychotic state of denial.
There's such tremendous power in conversation.
That we disagree on some things, we don't disagree on everything at all.
Why Tucker Carlson? Because often I don't like